This is TTS Times Wire News, providing fast and efficient narrations of the latest news articles for those on the go. We upload every weekday at noon Eastern Standard Time. Be sure to like and subscribe. Icelandic policemen were sent to the U.S. to gather further evidence of this so-called imminent danger, and Jónsson says he does not recall anything of substance coming out of that visit, and no further attacks were made against Icelandic interests. But the FBI would return. Icelandic officials deceived by the U.S. Towards the end of August, Þeyr was being pursued by WikiLeaks staff who wished to locate the proceeds of online sales of WikiLeaks merchandise. It emerged Þeyr had instructed the funds be sent to his private bank account by forging an email in the name of Julian Assange. Þeyr saw a way out, and on August 23 he sent an email to the U.S. Embassy in Iceland offering information in relation to a criminal investigation. He was replied to with a call and confirmed that he was offering to be an informant in the case against Julian Assange. The prosecutors and FBI were quick in responding, and within 48 hours a private jet landed in Reykjavik with around 8 agents who quickly set up meetings with Þeyr and with people from the Icelandic State Prosecutor's Office and the State Police Commissioner. Midday, Mr. Jónsson, then Minister of Interior, got wind of this new visit and requested confirmation that this related to the same case as earlier in the summer. I asked on what rogatory letter this visit was based and if this was exactly the same case, Jónsson says in an interview with Stundin. I then found out that this was of a totally different nature than previously discussed. He says he put two and two together and said it was obvious that the intention was to lay a trap in Iceland for Assange and other staff members of WikiLeaks. Such actions were, according to Jónsson, way outside the scope of the agreement, and thus he ordered that all cooperation with the agents be stopped, and that they would be informed they were acting in Iceland without any authority. Only days later he learned that the agents and prosecutors had not yet left the country, so the Ministry of Foreign Affairs contacted the U.S. Embassy with the demand they halt police work in Iceland and leave the country. They did, but left with a new informant and star witness, Sigurður Ingi Þeyr, who flew with them to Denmark. Not a hacker but a sociopath. Þeyr has been nicknamed Siggy the Hacker in Iceland. That is actually an antonym, as several sources Stundin has talked to claim that Þeyr computer ability is menial. This is supported by several chat logs and documents where he is requesting assistance from others doing rather uncomplicated computer jobs. Once he even sought FBI expert help in uploading a video from his own phone. The meeting in Denmark was the first of a few where the FBI enthusiastically embraced the idea of cooperation with Þeyr. He says they wanted to know everything about WikiLeaks, including physical security of staff. They took material he had gathered, including data he had stolen from WikiLeaks employees, and even planned to send him to England with a wire. Þeyr claimed in interviews he had refused that particular request. It was probably because he was not welcomed anymore, as he knew WikiLeaks people had found out, or were about to firmly establish, that he had embezzled funds from the organization. After months of collaboration, the FBI seemed to have lost interest. At about the same time, charges were piling up against Þeyr with the Icelandic authorities for massive fraud, forgeries and theft on the one hand, and for sexual violations against underage boys he had tricked or forced into sexual acts on the other. After long investigations, Þeyr was sentenced in 2013 and 2014 and received relatively lenient sentences, as the judge took into account that he changed his plea at court and pleaded guilty to all counts. According to a psychiatric assessment presented to the court, Þeyr was diagnosed as a sociopath, incapable of remorse but still criminally culpable for his actions. He was assessed to be able to understand the basic difference between right and wrong, he just did not seem to care. Incarceration did not seem to have an intended effect of stopping Þeyr from continuing his life of crime. It actually took off and expanded in extent and scope in 2019 when the Trump-era DOJ decided to revisit him, giving him a formal status as witness in the prosecution against Julian Assange and granting him immunity in return from any prosecution. The New York Times problem. In the month following Assange's arrest in the Ecuadorian embassy in London on April 11, 2019, a new rogatory letter arrived in the Ministry of Justice in Iceland. This time the request was to take a formal statement from Þeyr in Iceland in the presence of his lawyer. The ministry had a new political head at the time, who had limited knowledge of the prior history of the case. Although the Department of Justice had spent extreme resources attempting to build a case against Julian Assange during the Obama presidency, they had decided against indicting Assange. The main concern was what was called the New York Times problem, namely that there was such a difficulty in distinguishing between WikiLeaks publications and neat publications of the same material that going after one party would pose grave First Amendment concerns. Sigurður Ingi Þórðarson and Julian Assange. President Donald Trump's appointed Attorney General William Barr did not share these concerns, and neither did his Trump-appointed Deputy Kellyn S. Dwyer. Barr, who faced severe criticism for politicizing the DOJ on behalf of the president, got the ball rolling on the Assange case once again. Their argument was that if they could prove he was a criminal rather than a journalist, the charges would stick, and that was where Þórðarsson's testimony would be key. In May 2019, Þórðarsson was offered an immunity deal, signed by Dwyer, that granted him immunity from prosecution based on any information on wrongdoing they had on him. The deal, seen in writing by Stundin, also guarantees that the DOJ would not share any such information to other prosecutorial or law enforcement agencies. That would include Icelandic ones, meaning that the Americans will not share information on crimes he might have committed threatening Icelandic security interests, and the Americans apparently had plenty of those but had over the years failed to share them with their Icelandic counterparts. In any event, Assange has never been suspected of any wrongdoing in Iceland. Stundin has seen confirmation of this from the district prosecutor in Iceland, the Reykjavik Metropolitan Police. Assange has no entry in the Locate database of any police activity linked to an individual collected by the Icelandic State Police Commissioner from 2009 to 2021. Assange's lawyer also inquired in the Icelandic Foreign Ministry if the points in his updated indictment where Iceland is referred to as NATO Country 1 meant that his case had any relevance to Icelandic membership to NATO, the bilateral defense agreement between USA and Iceland, or any national security interests. All such connections were dismissed in a reply from the defense attaché at the ministry. Immunity and a new crime spree. According to information obtained by Stundin, the immunity deal between DOJ and Þórðarsson was presented at the headquarters of the Reykjavik police, where the only role of the Icelandic policeman was to confirm the identity of Þórðarsson before leaving him alone with his lawyer in the back room where he met the U.S. delegation. It is as if the offer of immunity, later secured and sealed in a meeting in D.C., had encouraged Þórðarsson to take bolder steps in crime. He started to fleece individuals and companies on a grander scale than ever, usually by either acquiring or forming legal entities he then used to borrow merchandise, rent luxury cars, even order large quantities of goods from wholesalers without any intention to pay for these goods and services. Þórðarsson also forged the name of his own lawyer on notices to the company house registry, falsely claiming to have raised the equity of two companies to over $800,000. The aim was to use these entities with solid financial positions on paper in a real estate venture. The lawyer has reported the forgery to the police, where other similar cases, along with multiple other reports of theft and trickery, are now piling up. When confronted with evidence of all these crimes by a Stundin journalist, he simply admitted to everything and explained it away as normal business practice. He has not yet been charged and is still practicing this business. Local newspaper DV reported last week that Þórðarsson had attempted to order merchandise on credit using a new company name, Icelandic Vermin Control. Despite using a fake name and a COVID face mask, he was identified and the transaction was stopped. He was last seen speeding away in a white Tesla, according to DV. Copyright 2021 Stundin Publishing Company. All rights reserved. Use of the content of the medium is not permitted without consent. Thanks for joining us at TTS Times Wire News. Be sure to like and subscribe to get fast and efficient narrations of the latest news articles for those on the go. We upload every weekday at noon Eastern Standard Time. See you next time on The Wire, and be sure to like and subscribe.